It
We're
says that
all
we're live.
I hope this is live. The
I hope this is
Chetsumoka,
live.
the Chetsumoka is the Kobayashi Maru of the Expanse. That's it. I got it out of my system.
You had to open with that.
It's so perfect. It's a no-win scenario, and Naomi Nagata totally beat the no-win scenario. It was great. She pulled a
we are live. Yes.
yes.
We are live.
Oh,
It's
wait,
working.
I got a tweet.
Everything is working.
Dun,
Okay.
dun, dun, dun.
All right. Well, nobody's watching us anyway, so it doesn't matter.
By the way, I
We'll
just got off a
just-
10-hour non-consecutive marathon of the Expanse. I haven't slept much, and I've had a lot of coffee. Just letting you know.
Okay.
So I'm
So-
like James Holden.
I still need to do the intro for the people that will watch this later on.
All right, I'll be quiet. Bye.
You just got off a 10-hour marathon of The Expanse season 5. I just got off a 10-hour shift. So I apologize for the lateness, people. I was up at 4 a.m. at work. It is currently 2 p.m. and I didn't expect to end so late. But anyway, here we are. This is welcome to ABTG. Absolute bullshit, true greatness. That's the spectrum on which we rate movies and TV shows over here. I am joined today by PJ and Ata Boy, my good friends. We're going to talk about The Expanse, season 5.
I don't understand your Belter language, by the way.
You don't understand my
What's
Belgian language?
yeah, Arthur Boy. I don't know what
It's Ata.
I don't know what
Ata.
Arthur
Ata
Boy
Boy.
is. I don't know what that means. It's
Go bang.
Earther. I'm not an. I'm from the planet Earth. Your origin.
All right. Anyway, we're going to be talking about season 5 of The Expanse, as well as probably seasons 1 through 4, because it's kind of hard to not talk about the previous seasons. So spoilers for everything. There we go. Have you finished your full rewatch or not? I'm curious about this. You have. Okay. All right. Well,
Sorry, I couldn't unmute. I
And-
just finished it like 15, maybe 20 minutes ago.
Okay, so my
Everything.
tardiness is like a good thing.
Like I know
And,
all the ships' names: the Serial Mall, the Chetsumoka,
So
the
you
Koyo,
just binged season 5.
the Kodo. Yeah.
And PJ basically just binged the entire show in like the past 2 weeks. he
Yeah,
saw the entire
we're
show.
like the most expert people on the Expanse, right? This is the most
not.
expert panel
This is the,
on the Expanse.
the
that you could
elite
ever-
panel.
This is the elite panel. It's true.
Okay, so what? So first of all, what do you guys think of season 5? Does it hold up? Is it as good as the other seasons? Is it better? Is it not as good? PJ, what's your favorite season? Having them watch them straight through.
The first 29 episodes, and that spans the first, second, and half of the third season. And that's a complete story arc that's pretty much unbroken in time all the way through. And then half of season 3 is one thing, season 4 is another thing, and then season 5 is its own thing. Nothing has quite lived up to those first 29 episodes. But it's still been really good. And season 5, I think, was a slight improvement over season 4.
Well, tonally, they're taking it kind of back to where it was in those first few seasons, I think, because we're finding ourselves with the belts, like the belt and the inner planets, all of a sudden. Whereas like the second part of season 3 and season 4 was about the rings and all of that.
You know what season 4 felt like to me? It felt like a Star Trek episode if one episode was like stretched out for a whole season, just in terms of when they're on that planet. Forget the name of it, Ilias, or with the slugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, Illis or
Illis.
Illis, I think. Yeah.
And
Forget.
that was something really
good
different
for a
I
rat.
found in the show that intrigued me. And now they're kind of going back to the sort of kind of the formula of the show in season 5, but they're adding this really kind of almost cartoonish at times villainous element to it. Marco,
I'm trying to-
who I'm
the
like,
most
I
evil
have a
villain.
kind of love-hate attitude toward it, I guess.
I found the most cartoonish villain was the bad
Dawes,
guy
Anderson.
in season 4. The dude on the planet, the guy that wanted to beat up Amos, like
that guy.
he was a
He
bit.
wasn't really a villain. He was just like mad. He was just like he
Fair
wasn't
enough.
like really.
So
I
is
don't think he had like a
Marco
villainous
mad.
plan. He was just like an angry person.
Yeah, I see what you
You
mean.
get a lot of murderous
Yeah.
pricks in this show, don't you? Like just
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we can like branch off about the other seasons at another point because season 4 is like this whole other discussion. But so see, like, where would you rank season 5 at this point? Are you really hype about it?
I'm really hype about it just because I'm freshly off of a 10-hour, roughly, binge watching. But I have it. I think it's neck and neck, or I think season 3 was my favorite. That was like probably still. I think season 3 was such a good. It was just it was just insane. Season 3. But I think that this season, what I like about it is that I the 10 hour just watching it now again, it just like felt like one continuous excellent movie, like story. Like it didn't have any weird like why did they do this moments. Like everything made sense. Like everything just like is so like just choice. I don't know, it's like such a great rewatch. I felt like I wasn't bored one bit. Like I didn't fast forward through anyone's storylines. It was really great to just kind of like, of course nowadays you watch a show and then you go on the internet and you can find out everything real or made up about that show, right? Like, but The Expanse just speaks for itself. Like I think you can just watch it and you just get everything you need from The Expanse, and I love it. I really love it. So
It's actually very rare that I go out of my way to like look up fan content or discussions or anything that involves The Expanse. And it's weird because I do that for Star Trek all the time, but it's not that I don't like The Expanse as much. It's just that like you say, like The Expanse, what it delivers is enough and it's satisfying enough. Like I don't need to discuss this. So I don't know. It's strange. That being said,
that's it. The discussion's over. This is
I love
the goat
fact they
show.
released- I love the fact that I want to talk about the format just before we get into like all the plot lines. I love the fact that they released it week to week this season, because season 4 came out all at once, and it was like a race to the finish. I had to like just binge the thing to be able to like talk to you about it. And
because I watched
this was nice. I could sit down and watch it every week, and then we could discuss it every week. Hi, Shishongo. How you doing?
I have to admit, it's infuriating because I always think like, I always appreciated that about The Expanse, that it dropped all at once. So if you really wanted to,
It never did
binge
that. It only did that for one season.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, because Sci-Fi.
Oh, because I came
weekly.
into it late. You're right. I didn't watch it from when it aired, so I binged previous
binged-
seasons. So that was my personal experience. You're absolutely right. Oh yeah, good point. Okay, never mind then. But I liked it, that one season where they dropped it all at once. I really liked it. I was like, yay. But Netflix does that. Like it does that for a lot of its shows. Like I feel like and so I was used to it, like, and I thought it was a good idea. But you're right, the weekly format works way better just from an anticipation perspective and giving people a chance to
online
appreciate and catch
discussions
up.
as well. I think it works better as a marketing.
Water cooler, everything. I feel like you could build an audience. You have more weeks to grow your audience than just like, here's the latest thing, and then everyone's moved on. So I agree.
Here's the latest Stranger Things. Oh, that's right. Everyone forgot. All right, let's talk about we got to talk about Marco so that you're satisfied, because you want to talk about Marco and Naros.
We could get him out of the way. I just think he's actually Jill is the only person on that tweet that came close to. Well, I don't want to comment about it. Ramsey Bolton is the worst, I think, neck and neck with Marcos Inaros. I don't think any other villain that I've seen. PJ says, what's his face from 1984?
I mean, what is Marcos or Marco? What has he done?
He's just so
exactly that.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No,
the most evil, the most vile villain ever. It's just how, first of all, like I feel like The Expanse for me, I take it really personally because it feels really close to what real life might not Marcos, that's right. It feels really close to what real life will be like one day. So I'm very invested in the world. And so when he did the attack on Earth, like it felt very much like something that I could like imagine, happening like in a future time. Like they just did it like in such a way that it like felt so like legit and real and tragic and everything. And identifying as an Earther, I just can't help it. I hate him with all my like passion, like, for what he did. But on top of that, I think the way he manipulates the people that he quote unquote loves is probably the thing that like sews that home for me, or like sews it in rather, I should say, for me, because it's clear that's what he's doing. I don't have any doubt in my mind when I watch this character that he's 100% for himself, and that none of the good things that are going to happen, quote unquote, because of what he's doing matter to him. He's just he's I think that like I think that like, yeah, he's very attractive and very he can seduce really well, but that's the thing that makes him even more evil, is that like you look at him and you want to kiss him, and but he's just the worst person.
Speak
Not
for
I don't know
yourself,
if
buddy.
everyone, I don't know if everyone wants to kiss him, but you know what I mean. You want to like be
Maybe
his
quite a few
pal,
people,
like,
but not everyone.
he's like a cool guy. I do want to say that like the scene that Vest, my favorite scene in the rewatch of just Marcos Inaros like getting his just desserts close to it, because I don't think he's gotten them yet, is when he's like, James Holden must be some kind of man to keep a woman like you, and Naomi just like gives it to him. She's like, he's everything you couldn't be, and he's just so like, you could see that really hurts him because he's so egotistical and so like mega maniacal, that like that hurts him more than anything, that the fact that like, you know, James Holden, and it's true, James Holden is a way better man or human or person than Marco
He's
Inaros
Mr.
could
Generic.
ever be. What are you talking about? James Holden's not generic. He's loving, he's kind, he's exciting.
His name
he's
is James Holden.
He's Mr. Normal. I love him.
He's Mr.
He's so
Everyman.
great.
He's every. Then I'm in love with
James Holden. I think is the first basically point of view character that you can like insert yourself into. Like, he's so generic and just like he's like a shapeless form that anyone can just imagine
He's
themselves
got a
being
very
James,
nice shape.
James Holden.
You're not obviously not
And-
paying attention when he wasn't wearing
That's
a
not
shirt.
what I mean.
In the first episode, he's very cut and ripped, and you can see muscles that I've never seen before on a human body, like these weird plate-like muscles on his back and stuff like that. I was like, whoa, what's that? He's not just a generic form. He's quite
get what I mean.
extraordinary looking as a human, I would just say. It's a specimen of humanity.
All right, going back to Inaros, I have to say this. I'll let PJ talk about him a bit if he wants to, but I just want to say that I do not disagree with everything that you said. Like, I agree with everything that you said, but I don't like the tweets that you've been tweeting about him, like the passion with which you hate this villain. I just don't get it. I'm like, he doesn't to me reach like a status of like he's not like a legend.
You didn't lose
a
half your
legendary
friends
villain
and
that will go
family.
down.
You didn't lose half your friends and family in New York and in Pennsylvania, and you didn't have an asteroid almost hit the California area near Baja California. You didn't almost, all those things. So that's why you don't empathize. You identify with the belt. You've said this before. So like, yeah, I could totally see why you're not seeing my passion and like why I'm so serious about it. But I genuinely identify as an Earther. Like, I'm a hardcore Earth fan, and I think that like, right now Marcos Inaros represents the opposite of Earth.
All right, PJ, what are your thoughts on this
I think
amazing villain?
I think he's despicable, and I think he's a piss poor representation of the Belters, because Expanse, the show, allows you to sympathize with all sides. That's the thing. It doesn't choose sides. It just shows you what the sides are, and you can change allegiances season by season if you wanted to. It's kind of like
I've never changed allegiances, just so you know.
But you could. I mean, you could be against, like, you could not have
I'm
so
not
much
against the
sympathy for the
belt.
Belters until, like,
I'm not
you
against
learn.
the belt, just so you know, as long as the belt keeps its extremists under control.
Like, for example, I didn't have much interest in Mars in the first season, but then when they got into showing characters from Mars more and more, I was like, yeah, this is pretty good. But the thing about this villain is that he's not only a piss poor representation of his people and these idiots that follow him. First of all, I don't believe in his charisma. Like the story wants you to believe that he has this power over people. I just don't buy it. And I was frustrated with his relationship with his son, because his son seemed to be kind of seeing past his bullshit, because he's not really doing this for the Belters. He's doing this for his own glory. He even says in the last episode, I'm doing this. He's like getting off on the fact that he's committing
But he likes it when people chant his name, like
You're just
Marco.
proving-
Marco.
He's a
everything
total
I'm
jerk
saying.
off. He's just one of those douchebag villains who is so insidious and dangerous at the same time that
We've seen this in real life.
I feel
People
bad
this
for his
exist
son.
in real life. That's what's really crazy.
I feel bad for his son because his son, he had that moment with Naomi where like they started to connect, and then like then he turns around and slaps her later on, and it's like, oh shit, he's buying into his father's crap again. And I think in season 6 the son has to turn against him, because the son can't be that stupid.
They're gonna go back to that, you think? Or I thought that like they made the decisive factor was when the magical scene with Naomi happened. Following that, I thought that they basically it was a statement from the show saying now the son is on the side of the father.
Yeah,
That's how it's gonna be.
I think the son will realize in season 6 that Marco doesn't care for his son like his son believes. He really doesn't.
There's hope for
he's
Philip.
all about himself, and if he had to sacrifice his son at some point, he would. I think.
I
He's
think
that
so
type,
too.
He's
I
that
think
type.
it's gonna-
Oh yeah.
It
Oh
might
He's
yeah.
even
that type
come
of
to that,
insidious
yeah.
bastard.
That's what I'm
And-
saying, PJ. You're just proving.
How
my
did
point,
Naomi hook
man.
up with this guy? What the hell? She's
'Cause
so intelligent.
He's seductive. I mean, like a pretty face sometimes is all it takes, right? You know,
guess
you
so.
never know.
Well,
each
see,
their
that's the thing, and I really don't want to like critique the actor because I do think the actor is doing a fantastic job, and I do think he is charismatic. I just don't think he has like the I don't know, the gravitas that they want this character to have. Like I feel like the character
I
is
disagree.
supposed to be he's one of the most basically engaging people of. He's the one that's uniting all of the belt. Some out of, I suppose, love or fanaticism, but others out of like fear. But I don't feel that from him.
No, I totally.
And
feel it.
I didn't even.
You can see it bubbling underneath, like what PJ was saying about all his his little slips of like I. And he's very clever. He has like when Drummer comes aboard the ship and she's like arguing with him and like, you know, all that stuff. Like he throws out like facts and figures at her, and like he seems to have a answer for the thing about food and soil and all this stuff. And like, you know, so he's very I think he's, and you know, obviously that's all it took to convince them at the moment. But I think Drummer sees through him. Who's gonna kill Marcos and Eros is really what we should be.
Well, it has
talking
to be
about.
Naomi.
You think
right.
it has to be Naomi?
I think it's going to be the son. I think the son is.
You think the
You think the
son's
son
gonna
is
do it?
going to kill him?
But I think it will. I think Marco will turn against the son. Like the son won't want to do something, or like he'll defy him in some way. And
Could it be a reverse King
Marco will
Arthur
snap on
Mordred?
him. What's that again?
Could it be a reverse of the King Arthur Mordred story where, you know, this is the evil king, right? And the son and the king, you know, and they both die at each other's hands. Like I think it might even be
it could.
that.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah.
They
something
should
like that.
they should space him and then throw like 3 rocks at him.
They should space him with a sledgehammer heading straight towards him that's slightly higher velocity than him, so he sees the thing coming like for like 5 minutes before it actually hits him and breaks his neck.
And you got to think
Sorry.
at some point after Marco is going to unleash all this destruction, that certain people, even Belters that did follow him, would be like, maybe this is too much. Maybe they might change their minds and think like, I don't want to be a part of this, because now it's going to start an all-out war.
Well, they're going somewhere else, and the
And now
Martians
Mars
were
is
going
involved.
somewhere else. Yeah, it's really crazy. There's 2 things, and Mars is sealed off their world or whatever, and there's like a lot of things going on. One more thing, I've never wanted to harpoon, like I've never had fantasies about harpooning a human being before, but I would be very satisfied to see Marcos and Eros
Very
harpooned.
specific.
Like in Commando, blow off some steam, Bennett.
I think it would be very satisfying to see him harpooned on Earth, where the gravity is really hard, so that the pain's like even worse while he's harpooned. So I'm just saying. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. Yes, I did.
Okay. Getting back on track.
Do you believe my passion now?
I think this is
I
exactly how
believe
he'll
it.
die. I think this is exactly how he'll die. Yeah, the son will stab me, and I'll be like, "Son, you've stabbed me through the heart."
Son,
He's like, "Yes,
stab
father,
me.
I've done so, and now I shall die." And then he
I
dies.
got it. I didn't get
That's
the right.
exactly what's gonna happen.
I didn't get the right avatar, but it has to be in a sexy, seductive way, like, son, you stabbed me. I did not.
Is that your Mako? Is that your Inaros?
Yeah.
Dear God.
He.
Okay, so Inaros adjacent. I think this was the best Naomi season we've had.
I agree.
Because I
Yes.
understand what they tried to do with season 4, with the fact that she and a lot of people from the belt will never be able to adapt to a planet, and so she was like she couldn't walk on the planet, etc. And that was a challenge, both physical and like emotional. But I think that this was just the best character deep dive into not only Naomi's past, but like the past that's catching up, so the present, but also all of the physical challenges she had to go through. I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, when she goes out into space and she suffers like great injury because of it, the way she plays that is like every single movement she makes is excruciating pain, and it's like
And all the scenes leading up to that in the no oxygen zone where they're
Yeah.
repairing stuff. And I love that Amos tells that story a little earlier in the season when he talks about the radioactive leak that he had to not breathe because if he breathed it in, it would eat him up from the inside out. But so he said, I had to walk back from this maintenance or like crawl back from this maintenance thing without breathing for 2 minutes. And I didn't catch that, obviously, watching it the first time. I don't know if you guys did, but when I watched it this time, I was like, wow, what a great like foreshadowing to put your mind subconsciously into this like mindset of not breathing in space, because that horrified me. and then that's the thing, is like I could have skipped around like rewatching, like there was no reason to like watch her suffer again, but I have to say I just couldn't take my eyes off of it. The performance was so good that I really enjoyed not enjoyed, but like it felt real to watch her go through all that stuff. It was really great acting. Yeah, it was to carry it for several episodes, because it's not just like a story.
That's the boldest thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you finish that episode, and I don't do this very often, but from the moment she launches herself into space, you end the episode on basically her getting to the other side. I rewatched that several times, and I usually don't do that, but I went back and rewatched it because I wanted to see the performance. It's so seamless the way it's executed too, like from a stunt performance or a VFX, like everything was flawless. And then they hold that theme or that like the state that she's in for so many episodes, and there's like so many small things, like she's going into like the vacuum and coming back, and then she's like licking off the evaporated ice, melted ice,
water,
water
to get water. Yeah, that's great stuff.
It's so clever.
Yeah, it's the survivalist stuff. It just makes me never, like, I used to have dreams of being an astronaut, and I thought like maybe in my old age I could like go and live on Mars and retire, but it's just one big death trap. I'm staying on Earth. I'm never leaving the safety of
Martian
Earth.
scum.
I just thought, like it might be cool to like 80-year-old Starfleet boy on Mars, right? Like with Elon Musk. Like I'm sure it'd be a small community. And so it would be like a really interesting community as well. He might kill me.
Insane now. Isn't he crazy?
He might be our Marcos Cineros. We have to watch all these people really carefully.
Be careful. Be careful of Elon Musk.
There's a scene where she gets rescued, right? And right before Bobby rescues her.
Oh yeah.
And they do this. It's just a little thing. I'm not picking on the show, but they show her tears kind of floating, and then in other shots they're like rolling down her face.
Yeah, I saw all those incongruities, like when the bottle breaks on the. I forgive the show because it's not nearly as. Those are little things.
But I wanted to say in that same breath, there's a really clever touch that they do is when Bobby rescues her, they don't show it. It's all like from that side view of Naomi, and you hear Bobby's voice through the suit, as opposed to like this thing they do in shows where. Like you just hear everything, even though you're not really supposed to. But even though they don't obey the no sound in space rule in the show, when they can, they play with it because it makes sense to hear Bobby's muffled voice through Naomi's suit. It's like the microphone's inside Naomi's suit. You know what I mean?
Well, she wasn't
I thought-
talking through the comms, though, was she? Because Naomi's comms were
No,
down.
but they
So she
did
was
it in
just
previous
talking,
seasons where if
and-
you put your helmet against another person's helmet, the vibrations can go through and you
Yeah,
can talk.
that's the clever sound touch
Right.
that I like. The fact that
Right.
you could hear that it's Bobby, but it's muffled, and it's more realistic. Even though, like I said, they don't always obey that rule, but when
Right.
they can play with it, right?
They balance it quite well. There's like a certain aspect to every space. So unless you're doing like hard science show, like there's a certain creative liberties that you need to take, because then you'll have, when you do an explosion.
Oh wow, you
you'll
called
never
the
be a
Expanse a hard
sound.
science? You called the Expanse hard science fiction? You consider it hard science fiction?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought you just meant like they're doing a hard science.
I would call it
No,
clever. I would call it clever science fiction.
I would
Oh,
call,
it's
I would
very-
call
yeah,
it one
it's
of
very
the,
clever.
I would, yeah. I think it's one of the closest things you'll get to like the realist science.
I
in a
mean,
science
yeah,
fiction
the
show.
science
But
stuff
I
is
find
great,
that
yeah.
they balance the creative liberties that they take with that real science very well. There's a few shots where like the hair should be floating and the hair's not. You know what I mean? Because they'll be floating around,
yeah.
but the hair doesn't move.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
They spend time doing it for certain scenes, but not for every scene. Although, yeah, you can forgive it. The other thing is like sometimes there is gravity. If, for example, if a ship is in a spin, there would be gravity. So you can kind of ignore things like and say like maybe they're in a low level spin, and so there's like a moderate gravity or something like that. You know, and so there are ways of achieving gravity where we wouldn't know it necessarily, but you could forgive it in the context of the show by saying maybe the ship was in a spin at that moment to create to create partial gravity for some reason, like maybe they needed to like pour whiskeys or something. I don't know.
So, what did you guys think of the whole Amos plot line on the planet?
You mean
on
Timothy?
on Earth? You,
Timothy? I
with
think
Peaches, Timothy and Peaches.
I think someone in the chat, maybe it was Robbie, said earlier that Holden reminds them of Batman. I think Amos reminds me of Batman in a weird way, because he totally has this like harsh kind of like reality that was presented to him as a kid.
Would he not be Bane?
Oh yes, he would totally be Bane. No, sorry, I couldn't help myself. I don't know, because so far, Amos seems to be doing the right thing. Like, he seems to do good deeds, and he seems to be helping people to, more than he's helping himself, even though he says things like, the only person you can really save is yourself, or, whatever he said in the scene where he went to Lydia's apartment. Is it her name Lydia?
When the help arrives, when the people that take care of the groundskeepers and everything arrive, and there's basically Peaches that says we need to save these innocent people, they have nothing to do with this, and then there's the other guy, which is the gangster guy, which I forget his name, but he says no, Eric. He says hard no, they can all fuck off. Amos does side with him, but not because he doesn't like these people. He's just like, look, there's only this much room on the ship. We don't have this much fuel. We got no room for you guys.
He's practical about things.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very practical, but he has a way of, like, his logic usually wins out, like, and he's usually very direct and honest about it, which I appreciate about Amos too. Like, usually it's like a matter of like, well, I have to preserve myself in order to keep going, so like, like to save you. I thought that the whole thing about finding out about his, like, this is something we've been kind of waiting for. Amos has been like a mystery character, I guess, in a sense. Like, we've always wondered, or at least I've wondered, what his past was that made him so kind of dark and effed up in a way. And this was a really good explanation. Like, he grew up in a really hard environment, like a harsh environment. From what I gathered from the dialogue, he was a child prostitute, and was like on the streets, like hustling, and then when he was too old to be attractive, apparently, which is really horrifying to imagine, like, then they put him.
It's so untrue. Come on. He never became unattractive.
It's true. But apparently, to these pedophiles, right?
Yeah,
and so, it's terrible, just horrifying to imagine this. you're like, okay, I get why Amos is the way he is, or rather, I should say Timothy. And it's cool to just have that, like, all that vulnerability about him. Like, I feel like, again, great performances by the actors, because the actor, I forget his name, but he also does the podcast, by the way, for the Expanse, the YouTube podcast. But such a great performance to, like, really show empathy, but also be this really powerful and strong character. Everything Marcos Cenarros is not, because Amos is kind of like violent and all those things, you know, like you could see, but like I could forgive Amos a million times, not to keep going back to Marcos Cenarros, because he does end up doing the right thing at the end. So yeah, he had a really hard upbringing, and apparently Lydia, this woman, really like transformed his life, and I just fell in love with that story. I thought it was a really fantastic reveal of his character, so that was an enhancement, I thought.
All right. What did you guys think of Clarissa Mao Peaches? I had basically forgotten she existed, honestly, because I haven't binged this thing, so I've been watching this every year for the past 5 years, and then they start introducing. I'm like, who's this? And oh, wait a minute, this is the second Mao daughter. I forgot. The first one kind of sticks in your mind because, you know, when you see her, you know.
So she was introduced last season, right? Was it last season?
Yeah, I think she was. No, what? No, she was earlier than that.
Or maybe it was season 3. I don't know.
She's been around for a lot of seasons, I think.
I thought it was season. Yeah, it could be season 3. Yeah, the after the second half maybe, because they do a whole backstory with her and her sister and the father, and then you don't see him at all in season 4. I don't think. I don't know.
Sean, anyway, can I? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, PJ. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, can we address something in the comments? Like, I guess.
Oh yes, go.
Yeah, I guess Amos is kind of still a mystery, but I feel like this is the most we found out about.
I don't
him.
think he's a mystery at all. I think Amos, and I think everybody will agree, wants to do 2 things. No, okay, sorry. 3 things.
Drink.
No, 4 things. Eat, sleep, kill, and fuck. There you go.
He doesn't want to kill.
No, I think mystery is not the right word. I think he's just a lot more complex or layered than what how he was initially presented. Because he's the muscle in season 1, right? He's like Naomi's muscle.
I would watch a spin-off of him in his younger years with Eric.
No.
I would, yeah.
Like I wouldn't want to see. I wouldn't want to see Amos' younger years, if you know what I'm saying. Like,
not that young. I'm talking about when he became like a doorman.
Of course,
yeah.
No. You don't want to see it.
I can see an Amos spin-off from where the Expanse will leave off after season 6, definitely. But who knows? I think they might pick up the show. That's what's great about 2 or 3 years from now.
Any one of the characters could have spin-offs that I would watch. Like, legit, I would watch, like, side hustle stories, stories about all of them. And that's what we kind of got this season, if you think about it. Like, they were all kind of split apart, really. And we watched spin-offs of each of those characters' shows.
I would argue that spinning off a character doesn't really apply to the Expanse anyway, because like in the way that Star Wars or Star Trek, you do Star Trek Picard or you do Solo or Star Wars story, it is very Picard centric and his friends, or Solo is very Solo centric and his friends, whereas the Expanse, I feel like even like you could pick any character, spin them off, it would just be more of the Expanse. It wouldn't be those characters specific. Like that's how I feel. But
well, they're also intermingled at some point, even if they're separated for a season. They all end up in the same room at some point, and we will have other characters in there.
That's maybe why it felt more like season 1, because in season 1 it's basically the journey of all of these characters coming together with Miller. But and here, like, everyone's separated. Everyone, like, Naomi's going through her thing, Amos is on Earth going through his thing. James was like, he had the most boring storyline this season, I found.
Who's James?
I don't know. I can't remember.
No, who is he?
James Holden.
Oh, Holden. It's like James.
Jim, man.
Jim.
It's Jim.
God damn it, Jim. I thought you were kidding.
Yeah, he might have been. Out
of all the seasons, James Holden as a character is put completely on the back burner. You wouldn't know he was the main character in the show at all if you'd never watched it before.
I think it's okay because he's gotten so much. Yeah, he's gotten so much.
Previous seasons, he became basically like a he became a transmitter for like Miller or the proto molecule in like season 4 and back into season 3. But before that, he was the main. He was the main season 5. It almost feels like Amos is the main
Look,
character in season
Holden's the
5.
kind of man that doesn't need to be the center of attention like Marco for
Ah,
fucking
I,
Inaros
I
to
felt
Again with the
be
Mark.
I
to
felt
validate
Naomi
it.
was I felt Naomi was the main character of season 5
She
for
Well,
was.
sure.
I
she's the
think
one.
she was the focus.
She's
She
Yeah.
was the
the most
focus.
compelling story.
And
Yeah.
and most of what happens revolves around her in some way, shape, or form.
It's because it's a very Belter specific season. So even the stories that what's she called, Drummer? Even the stories that revolve around Drummer somehow always go back to Naomi and to like their relationship and to like why
That, by the way,
Drummer's.
that scene was so satisfying when Naomi and Holden are reunited, and it's just like love fest, and I just like I was so like
I thought she was gonna run to him and he was gonna lift her up like the Dirty Dancing thing.
I wanted it. I wanted something like that. It was really really
You,
good.
you
I was
wanted
just
some
so
zero
happy.
G. You wanted some zero G sexy time, like in the pilot.
No, I mean, like, I get that they couldn't do it. She was pretty messed up after her space adventures, literally. But I also like the way they handled actually in that same scene, Alex Kamal. What did you guys think of Alex Kamal?
Yeah, we have to talk
We're
about that.
we're on the heels of another. This happened again, Gina Carano. I don't know how
Oh
much you want to talk
god.
about it. It's your show, and I
I
know
don't
you're
want to talk
sighing,
about the
but
Star Wars: The Mandalorian
all
at the
right. But I'm
moment.
just saying
We've
the
already got
same
Alex
thing
to deal with.
basically happened to yeah. So we have another situation like that in the
No, I
Expanse. Do
don't
you
think
want to
it's
talk
quite.
about it?
I don't think it's quite similar. From what I understand, um, there are complaints about the actor from The Mandalorian online, but there are like serious allegations and like there's
Well,
an
well,
investigation, everything going on with this
I guess
actor
what I'm
here.
saying is like, how do you think? Let's not talk about the Mandalorian, but I think that despite the controversies occurring and whatever people's opinions are, I thought the writing off of the character was done really well.
I agree.
Like that. Like that's what I
I
meant. And I hope they do the same thing for Cara Dune because I
uh,
really loved Alex as a character, and I really love Cara Dune. That's all I wanted to say. That's it.
Well,
Well,
in
they
the
always
Mandalorian, you can just have like a line saying she went back to the planet, she's living her life, whatever,
who
moving
cares
on.
about the Mandalorian? We talk about
Okay,
the
Let's talk about the
the
Expanse.
Expanse is okay.
Expanse.
In the This is what I found. I found that when I watched the season and when I watched it happen, it spiked me. I wasn't I wasn't prepared for him to die, but then when he died, I wasn't surprised, so it didn't come as a shock. And inevitably, in my mind, I was like, "Oh, okay, so they chose to kill off the character, and I know why." But I think it was done and executed in a way that if someone watches The Expanse 10 years from now and
And
they are
doesn't know all the
unaware
context.
of
Yeah.
anything, they will just be. It will work. I think it'll be very effective, very
Yeah.
heartbroken, and it's the deaths that I enjoy. It's the unceremonious deaths.
It's
I don't like it when they take an episode with sad music to kill someone. I like it when
which
they just.
happens. I like that too. You're absolutely right. It happens twice. Lydia, like he tells Amos, Lydia's husband tells Amos, like she just died in her sleep of an aneurysm. Like, what do you want to hear? That she was like, you know what I
They
mean?
in
Like
in the show they talked about the risk of
another parallel,
stroking
by the way.
out.
Yeah, they do.
They talk about the risk of stroking out when you do these hard burns,
Talk about it like every season.
and to show one of the main characters suffer that consequence, and Holden even tells Naomi, "This is a chance we have to take." It
We
was
all
it
take
was
this
almost
risk,
the
yeah.
perfect way to kill off a character when you had to get rid of an actor. As unfortunate, I don't really care about what happened, to be honest. If they killed him off, they killed him off. But the way they did it, I found
He stroked out.
didn't feel odd or out of place. It felt like,
I would
oh,
have.
they've been talking about the consequences of hard burns for the longest time. Bobby earlier in the episode even warns him like we could stroke out, and boom. And as soon as she calls him and doesn't get an answer right away, I was
You
like,
knew.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
gone.
So
He,
I would have.
I like his
edited
last line, by the way, which was something like "What a ride" or something. His last line is like "What a ride that was." Like it's
Oh well,
really very very
even
Alex.
after that, they're listening to like a thing that he said, and it relates to like this family. Oh no, it's Naomi's message. Naomi and James are listening to the message
Just
that Naomi left in case she died, and it's all about the family that we are. The family's ever changing. That's like that is clearly that's not about that's about the cast. Like that's about the real life cast. Anyway, I would have edited it just a little differently because I feel like they do all the hard burns and everything, and then you get a moment where nothing's happening regarding that concerning that ship, and it's all about Naomi that's floating in space, and then you get what's she called?
The
Oh no,
Chetzamoka? The
no,
Chetzamoka? No.
she goes to save her. Oh, I forget what she's called.
Bobby? What?
Bobby. But yeah, Bobby, and then all of a sudden it cuts to Alex. I would have edited it a little. I would have done a hard edit from like a burn or like a hard turn, and then he's dead to make it really like, oh well, it happened now. You know what I mean? But it's like a minor complaint. I actually do think it was very well handled. And again, 10, 15 years from now, when someone watches The Expanse, because there'll be a spin-off coming out, yeah, they won't know about the controversy unless they really read into it, and it'll work fine. Oh, there's a discussion about it.
Did we just
But
have a
yes.
moment of silence for Alex? That was funny.
What's interesting though is I was very attached to Alex in the first few seasons, and this has nothing to do with the allegations regarding the actor because I didn't know about that in like season 3 or 4 because they didn't exist. But I was less attached to Alex as a character in season 3 and 4, and in 5 than I was in like the first. Like in the first seasons, I felt like he had a nice personality, and they were building up like he was the flyboy kind of character, kind of the Tom Paris. But then as we moved on, like this season tried to develop his freaking family on Mars. I'm like, I don't care. I'm not invested in your son or in your ex-wife. Like none of that matters to me. And the only thing I wanted them to do with that was like get him speaking to Bobby so they can start investigating what the fuck Mars is doing, right? That's the only thing that was interesting me.
Yeah, he out of
I
all the main
still,
characters, he's the one that I would have minded the least having
It's
just
the
disappeared.
Martians. No one likes them.
You're right, the stuff with his family didn't click at all. Like his whole family issue has never interested me. I don't know why. It's just like, and the
I
fact
found
that he
it.
died, I didn't feel sad. If Amos had to die, if Naomi had to die, I would have been probably very angry. Uh, James Holden, I don't know. I actually don't know how I would feel if they suddenly killed him. I'd be sad for Naomi, I
I
guess.
I think I could
Well,
f- I think I could keep watching the show if any of the other characters died except for Jim and Naomi. Like I kind of watch it for
boy,
them, Jimmy boy. So I kind of watch it for them. So I would be pretty upset. I mean, I would still give the show a chance. Like if Naomi were suddenly the what is that?
you're wrong.
I wouldn't
No,
give the show a chance.
no, I'm just saying you're wrong about and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why, sir. It's because The Expanse killed off Miller. So The Expanse already ripped away one of the most engaging and compelling characters from the
He's not
story.
really. Yeah, he's killed, but he's more like he evolved into this like proto matter,
Say what you
avatar.
will, Miller's no longer on the
Yeah.
show.
Right.
Though
Right.
he did the actor did direct one of the episodes. We saw him in the gag reel. Anyway, he died, and I feel like the Expanse killing him or killing off such a like he was a main character. He was my favorite character at the time. Just killing him off enables the show to like I don't know. Now whatever they can do, they can't top the emotion. Like whoever they kill, they'll never top the emotion of me losing Miller. You know what I mean? I will. I screamed Miller for like 3 years. I
You
can't.
did.
I will. So yeah.
No, well, I mean, like I said, the show's more about Jim and Naomi for me personally. So as long as they're somehow still involved, like I don't care if they kill off the other characters. Like, I did like, there was a lot of death in this season, personal close death. Like the Rossi team lost Alex, Avasarala lost Arjun, and and even like Lydia who
Was massive, this
yeah,
season.
and then of course there's like millions and millions of people that died in the attacks on there. So I thought that was interesting.
But
It was a really the most death in a season I think that we've had so far.
right before the dramatic cliffhanger with Marco and Mars and stuff, you have that like Avengers type meeting of all the best characters in the show in a room together, and it's like they've all teamed up now, like they're
Yeah.
all together, and it's like season 6. I want all of these people together.
Yes.
Like in unison, one goal, go after Marco, and it's going to be like some of Mars is going to unite, some of the Belters are going to turn on him, some of Earthers obviously gonna. But yeah,
To talk
Yeah, it's a
about
great. I like that.
to
That's
talk about the
hyping me
most
up.
like,
However,
the most
PJ,
random. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say we do have to. I haven't read the book, so I'm like that,
I don't
like
even
you
want to
two
know.
speculating.
No.
But I know that those things are kind of known because they do follow the books pretty closely. So I don't know what's gonna happen, but I know it's known. It's like
I don't
whatever we're
wanna know.
speculating. It's already somewhat. There's not a lot of room for speculation because the books have already like played out. But I did hear from some of the reviews that I've watched that don't spoil the books, which I appreciate, by the way. I like that there's reviewers that'll do like non-book spoiler versus book spoiler
that's
stuff.
Thumbs
You know
up
what kind
to
of
them.
people I love? The people who are like, I've read the book, so I know more about what happens in the show than you do. They used to do that with Game of Thrones, and then Game of Thrones like separated
Oh,
from the
that's
books,
scum.
and
Yeah,
then they had
Yeah,
no
I
more
think
excuses.
the impression I get is that The Expanse has kind of already done that in a lot of senses. There's even exciting stuff that like book lovers are like, "Ooh, I don't know where this is going, but I like
Well,
it," so which is cool.
characters don't get unfortunate allegations. You know what I mean? When you're writing books,
Well,
there are things
here's another question because
control your
actually
books more.
I've never I would not have like if a show's been on for like 20 years or it's like that old, I can understand feeling that attached to an actor, but I think like recasting for shows like The Expanse, I wouldn't care as much. Like I think if you got a really good actor to
Wrong,
replace
because of
the character.
Asarala's husband, when they recast
I
him,
know I said they didn't
I
do a
was
good job at
pissed.
recasting, but had they done one, I would have been like, "Oh, this is the greatest thing ever. This guy's better than the last one." You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes it really does work. I think a show should try to do it. You're right though; it didn't work with Arjun. You're absolutely right. Good call out.
gonna be very mean. I regret the fact that they recast him just to kill the character. Like, if they knew that the character was gonna die in the next season, I wouldn't have recast him. I would have just not had him on screen, and then maybe it's more impactful to have him on screen for a season and then say he's dead. But I don't know. Anyway, what did I want to talk about? I wanted to talk about. I was gonna mention something about Agents of Shield. Yes. Yeah, it's unrelated, but you'll get my point. In Agents of Shield, they have a tendency of separating all the characters off, and they think it adds tension and drama to have characters on separate missions or whatever. And I did like what The Expanse did in this season, but I am looking forward to having everyone together, working on the mission together. You know what I mean? Like the mission will be to, I suppose, take down Inaros, but also figure out what the fuck Mars is doing. Because they're working with the protomolecule or they're working with alien tech at this point. And so I like the concept. Like, I don't know if they're going to get a big ship and put everyone on a bridge.
Well,
But
they have that crazy guy who's got a few too many screws loose. The scientist guy. He's on the Martian planet. With the
he's
protomo-
already
yeah.
there. Okay, so we have to talk about this. That crazy guy sending messages to the captain that is dead. What happened in that final scene?
Well, I kind of know. I have an idea, so I'm just gonna sit this one out if you guys want to speculate about it. But I do have an idea because I got spoiled.
Oh no! Well, that's not fair.
Just a little bit, but I stopped. I closed the material that I was reading, but I have an idea of what happened, so I'm not gonna. So I will just say this: that like watching in this season, they told again everything's like beautifully set up in this season because in the beginning you do see those alien swishy things. Holden is showing it to Fred, saying like, "This is what's inside the ring gates." Like these, and they seem angrier every time I go through. I see them, like Holden sees them, and they seem angrier. So for whatever they are, we're gonna find out. I think next season for sure.
Okay.
Perhaps the ring gate alien entities will be the destruction of the bad guys. Maybe the good guys will realize we can't use the belt and use the ring gates anymore. It'll become a thing where they thought they could keep going through, but it's like no dice. It gets to a point where they're like no more. It's not intended for you people.
Based
It's
on
really
our
eerie that there's only one sentient humanoid life form in the galaxy so far. That's all I gotta say. Like that humans seem to
There's gonna be more.
we'll see. I don't know if the show will ever bring in aliens. I wonder if they ever will. It's going to be interesting to find out.
Well, the protomolecule standing
It's
up
an
and
alien.
walking
Yeah,
around
it
was
counts.
the
Oh,
closest
that's
thing.
true. That counts as it's true. Monster.
Um,
Rogary Trekkie brings up a good point. That last comment.
where
I forgot about that.
this?
The very last part, that weird, where the ship is going through space and it's like turns red and stuff and it disappears. Like, I don't know
They're
what
going
the hell that is.
into the Expanse is going to do a mirror universe season next season where Marco Sinaros is the captain of the Rocinante and he's still with Naomi and her son also
And
is on
James
the
Holden is
Rossi.
clean shaven.
And he's clean shaven and he's the villain because he got radicalized because he never had Naomi to fall in love with. So he's the actual villain and they have to defeat him. No, I'm just kidding.
And Christian is like Giorgio. She's got like all kinds of like decorative.
No, it's Emperor Avasarala from the very universe.
Emperor Avasarala. And then what could Amos be?
God.
And Alex.
He's like a humanitarian or a doctor or something, or like some kind of some kind of rights guy.
Amos is a neurosurgeon.
He's a neurosurgeon. Yeah.
He's a neurosurgeon. That's what it is. And Alex is like a great family man, church leader on Mars. He's like this guy. He's like a televangelist. There we go. We just solved the Expanse Mirror Universe season.
Okay. I've got to like take this like some sort of other
A
direction.
significant character dies in the show. Have we mentioned him? He gets shot by that girl from Discovery.
Fred Johnson.
Fred Johnson.
That's right. That girl from Discovery. That's right. She was so good as a belter.
May
She
from
was-
Discovery. May
she
Oldham.
was-
She's
As a
great as
belter, she was in Discovery. She felt out of place in Discovery. I'm sorry.
What? How do you even say that? Something like that statement, like she felt out of place in Discovery. She felt totally in. No, what are you talking about? She felt. Totally
I think
in
that
place in
whole
Discovery.
Tilly going into the thing, yeah, all that May stuff.
I thought
was a waste
May
of
was
time.
great. I thought
It
May
was.
Ahern was a great character.
Ultimately served no purpose. However, in The Expanse, her character did serve a purpose. She killed Fred Johnson.
And I didn't see that coming. That
didn't see it
that was
coming
so
either.
out of left field.
That
I
was
thought she
out
was
of left
good.
field. It's true. Yeah. Again, this season hits hard right from the start.
Crazy about it too. Like you think like, oh, she, some of these people, but no, she was just insane and so insistent about this is what I need to do, this is what I have to do, and she didn't seem brainwashed. She seemed like legitimately.
No, she was. Marco Sinaros worked on her himself. He probably.
Oh, what do you
he
mean
probably-
by that?
Not
was
what you
gonna
thought
say-
I meant.
I was gonna say that it looked like these people are genuinely convinced that he's doing good and what he's doing is a good idea, and that's what's very compelling.
Not just that, the Rossi, like the sabotage of the Rossi, like all that good, all that stuff was just the season. Just like it has like it's such a, it's so hard to think of another show other than Game of Thrones. Like that's the level I think The Expanse is on. I really hope it gets more.
People are calling it that now, the Space Game of Thrones, which is what Star
I
Trek
get-
2017 should have been. But
I get what they're saying because it has that same feeling of like you don't know what to expect, but you're really enjoying the ride, so to speak. Like it's just like a really intensely. I mean, aside from the little mistakes that you said, but like just the filming when I was watching it this time, some of these close-up shots, like the lighting and the gradients and like just like the detail and it's just so beautifully shot, filmed, directed,
it's
edited.
very-
Sometimes
yeah.
the camera feels like it's floating, like it would in 0G, like just gently floating. It's so subtle. I love all that stuff.
Yeah,
There's not
the
too many lens flares. There's like it's just done done so right.
directing and like the way they light the sets, all of that is impeccable. Like and even the visual effects shots, like the ship shots, they have a very specific. I feel like The Expanse has established its own way of filming ships and combat now, where they use the camera and fly through the things, and the visual effects in this season were outstanding. I felt like some of the visual effects in season 4 were a little weaker, even if it was.
Yeah, you said that.
And I don't watch it in 12
thought
million K. I watch it in 1080p.
Well, I watched it in 4K, my friend, and I watched it in 4K on the Amazon Prime. No, But I found the first 3 seasons visual effects were subpar, but I didn't give a crap. I just thought the show was so good. It was just like anytime I saw the wonky CGI, I
They're
just
also dealing with a lot of blue when they're dealing with the proto molecule, and it's a very
yeah,
it's a very
I
bright
know.
saturated color, and it's hard to make it look good.
Actually, I actually that's one of the things that I liked how they made that look in the earlier seasons. But I found in season 4, especially with with that big wave, that was a very complicated, expensive CGI shot. And I know they didn't it wasn't like as consistent as season 5, but season 4 had some really like noticeable improvements in visual effects.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
thought the
season
same
5
thing
is the
too.
best so far, and I think they should really give them all the money they need for season 6 to go all
Please,
out.
yes.
And the way
I
they
ju-
film the space battles is very cool too, because they do a combination of like kind of point of view, then they do wide shots where you can see every single thing, you know exactly what's going on,
Yeah,
and the way the the way they shoot, I don't know exactly the
the
term for
physics,
the
the
guns that they
physics.
use, the
You
way
get
yeah.
the bullets come flying out basically
What are they
looks
called?
so cool.
Turrets.
Yeah,
Yeah, but the
it all
physics
looks
is what's really impressive, right? Like
yes,
it
it's
just
believable. It makes
it's
sense
believable. Yeah,
visually and from a like a physics point of view, as far as any layman can understand physics.
I do.
The way they accelerate and brake and then go back the other, you know, it's all, and
I do think.
and the inertia that they show in the inside the ship and how characters are reacting inside is perfectly edited and timed with the action. So it's all very well done, and I don't understand why Trek can't do that.
Well, bouncing off what you're saying, I do think that, and they actually heavily choreograph all of these scenes beforehand, so they know exactly like which way they're gonna shake an actor, which way the ship is gonna move, and like when that gets to like the CG artist, it's not like oh make a fight, you know what I mean? It's like this is what's gonna happen in the fight. This is how it happens. Uh, one person's gonna fire one ship's gonna fire 5 missiles. The turrets are gonna blow them up. One's
It's
gonna miss.
meticulously planned
Yes, I think
to where
it's. I would just say that whatever the planning is, it's beautifully pulled off because you feel like a lot of attention went into it for sure. I just wanted. I know you took a jab at Star Trek and you were just kidding, probably mostly, but I just want to say it's a whole different technology. Inertial dampeners were totally different than
I
like
no,
the
I'm just
G-forces.
talking about
But I know what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Like the battles in Trek seem redone. Like I've seen every battle. Star Trek's had so many battles that you feel like you've seen it all, and so nothing feels really exciting and new. And even like in the films, like since Star Trek 2, it wasn't until Nemesis where I felt like, oh, like maybe First Contact a little, but you know what I mean? Like,
can I give a small example of just how the difference in how they portray space physics?
yeah,
Say
sure.
there's
I
one
don't
small
use that
scene.
cavernous.
There's one small scene in Star Trek Picard where La Sirena is kind of doing maneuvers, and it looks so jarring, fast, and cartoony. It doesn't look real at all, and it's just a minor shot. For the most part, the effects in Picard are fantastic. I'm not dissing it on that. I'm just saying sometimes with La Sirena, the way the ship moves and some of the battles don't look right. And I think Discovery, like in the end of season 2, did kind of a cool thing with that battle, but it was like too much. If they kind of like just pulled back a little, it could have been really great.
Right,
But
it
with
felt
with the
overwhelming. Yeah.
Expanse, you always get a sense of I
Like
don't
you're
know
in
if
it.
geography,
You feel like
but
you're
of
there. Yeah,
space.
but yeah.
You can kind of visualize where everything is, and when things cut back and forth, you're not like, what's going on? What ship is that? Who's firing on who? It's all very
There's
concise.
a clear shift from third person to first person
That is
in
Yes,
the
yes.
Expanse. Like it's very and it's
Exactly.
seamlessly done, beautifully done. Where like you're not pulled out of the excitement when the switches happen, and they're just like feel really natural.
And I don't want to crap on Trek. I just want to say that Trek people should watch The Expanse more and just to kind of take notes, not to copy it, but just for a sense of timing and visuals in terms of space battles. Because I don't think sci-fi space battles look particularly good. For the most part, they're kind of very generic, and it's like one guy's over here, one in space, boom, boom, boom. But with the Expanse, in scenes they're constantly making decisions and reformulating their plan. When another shows, it's like evasive maneuvers or just like it sounds too generic in other sci-fi, when I find The Expanse is just more believable in that sense. I don't
think
mean
that,
to be harping on it, but yeah.
I think that, like, again, I just want to say one more thing. I'm so sorry to take up your time on your show with this thing, but I just have to respond, which is, there are times in Star Trek, the newer Star Treks, where those kinds of physics and stuff work. It's like when Burnham and Pike and Nan and that asshole are, going towards the Tignataro ship. Like, you get this, like, you get the physics and, like, all the feels and all that, like, all that excitement and stuff like that, and they do pull out and stuff. But I think for the most part, what I like about Star Trek, even Star Trek's not doing, which is, like, they've always appreciated the scale of these ships and made them more like naval battles, like a little bit more lumbering.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, on the bigger scales. And this Discovery just moves too fast. That's what's awkward about it. Like, it's not like the bigger ships in Star Trek don't move to what you expect their scale to be. Whereas in The Expanse, you get that. Like, the big ships, they're more lumbering. They're more like cumbersome. Like, those battles they have like weapons that are meant for longer distance because they can't do well in close quarter. They won't do as well in close quarters. So that's where, like, I think that's what you're talking about, that I would love to see more, where I would agree with you on that.
I
more
agree.
with Star Trek.
Though I do agree that I think on a technical level, it's better done, maybe better pre-organized in The Expanse. I do think, and I'm going to play devil's advocate for Star Trek here, especially for modern Star Trek. I do think it's this might seem, I think, is it easier to make a battle in The Expanse because or maybe it's just more engaging because it feels so real. The scale and the scope of the battles and of the ships and the technology that they're using feels closer to home, whereas in Star Trek, you're dealing with, like, these, it's the future, these ships are huge, you know what I mean? It's not, nothing feels as real or as realistic. As much as you want Star Trek to be real and you want to be able to live in the world of Star Trek, it is very much fiction. And so I feel like
Star Trek gives you a view of, like, the distant future, whereas I feel like the view that you're seeing in The Expanse is closer to what we can imagine, of being closer to our reachable in our lifetime, not in our lifetimes, but maybe Robbie will start. He'll get on a ship he'll get on a ship and go to the belt or something like that. Who knows? You know,
stop building.
It's more realistic to think by the 24th century, human beings would have kind of explored the solar system and set up colonies in our own solar system. Star Trek goes like that extra step and says, no, we've not only done that
because we
got the big boost from the Vulcans. That's the difference,
exactly.
right? Like,
that's the difference. Yeah.
The big boost.
The big boost.
That's where.
But yeah, like
you and I used to, like, Trek on the Tube and I, for, like, you can see it's on record in many Starfleet Board discussions, but we used to be like, oh, Expanse is the unofficial prequel for Star Trek. But you're right, it's not like that at all, because First Contact happens and a whole bunch of other stuff. But I would have loved it if Enterprise was closer to this.
Out of the protomolecule, but
I just would have loved it if Enterprise was closer to this aesthetic than what it actually is, because it just doesn't feel as exciting.
I wanted Enterprise to be nothing like the Expanse is, but I wanted Enterprise to be nothing like Enterprise is. I wanted Enterprise to be just a bunch of humans in, like, vast space, just completely lost, not finding anyone. No Vulcans, no Klingons, no Romulans, no Ferengi, just them in space trying to find a place.
But honestly,
what would the stories have been?
I don't know.
if they're not exploring anything in a Star Trek show.
I want a desk office, desk job type stuff. It's like The Office and not in space.
I don't want
future office.
Enterprise shouldn't have existed. Or if Enterprise wanted to do, like, if they wanted to do Enterprise, they should have done it later in the story of Enterprise, where they had already started finding planets, and they started, like, creating the Federation, that kind of stuff. Anyway, the show is structured wrong. But anyway, have you guys got anything more to say about The Expanse?
I just want to say I'm sorry we went on that Star Trek tangent, because The Expanse shouldn't be compared to other shows. It's a really strong show just on its own, and it's really defining. I haven't felt this great about watching a new show. Star Trek's like my warm blanket, blah, blah, blah. But this is really exciting. I feel like Battlestar Galactica excitement when I watch The Expanse, and I just want to watch it over and over again. It's like hypnotism. It's like I could just watch it and totally be transported to this world and
You
like
just
being
want to
it.
see those scenes with James Holden with his shirt off and his weird back muscles, whatever you were talking about earlier.
His new improved muscles. His
Aside from the
24th century muscles.
he has,
Hey,
he has
Amos is
muscles
pretty
I've
cut,
never
too.
seen. Yeah, Amos is pretty cut too. I enjoyed seeing
Actually,
little
everybody in the show is in pretty good shape.
we didn't talk about Drummer, but she really stood out in this season as unexpected for me. Like I didn't think she was going to do what she did. I did, but I didn't think it was going to happen the way it
She
did. It was
turned
really
into
awesome.
a little secret agent.
Yeah, it was
pretty
really
much,
good. And
yeah.
and then just the life on the ship was the Belters have always intrigued me because they're so different from humans, and even the humans on Earth and Mars kind of see them as different, and they are kind of alien. Like they're stretched out a little bit, they're a little longer. They call them skinnies or something like that, like as a thing, like right.
More skinny shit on my ship.
Yeah,
That was-
exactly. And then just their lifestyle is very interesting too. Like the polyamory, I don't know if we had time to talk about that, but like I just like enjoyed seeing how natural they depicted the polyamory. Like it didn't feel awkward or sensationalized. Like it just felt like, oh yeah, Drummer's with her and then Drummer's with him. Oh, and Drummer's also with him. Oh, and Drummer's also with her. Like it's like you kind of get the dynamic after a while, but it doesn't feel off. Like there's all these subtle ways of showing like alternative lifestyles and things like that, and inclusion, because we love that, to include people who maybe haven't had a voice, and so the Belters are cool that way. Even though as an Earther, I'm very traditional and very different from the Belters. I do have some Belter friends who are pen pals. That's all.
Terra
That's all I gotta say.
firma.
Yeah, no, it's because like Earth has like a million cultures that have evolved over thousands of years on Earth, but the Belt are defining and creating their own culture. And some of these Belters are born like Belters. They're no longer human. That's very mean, but they're born different.
They are
right?
humans. They're just evolved. They've evolved a different way, right? Yeah.
Where they're forging their own culture, so it makes sense that there's all of that. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. PJ?
I think it was a good season of television.
It
And I
really
would definitely,
was.
I'm glad I caught up right before the last episode, because that's exactly what happened. Like I was watching season 5, and like the day I finished, boom, there was the last episode, and I could experience it with everybody else. And
It
now
was
going
cool.
forward, I can experience The Expanse and not have to say, don't talk about it, I don't want to know, or I don't care. At one point, I didn't care if people spoiled the whole show for me. But then when I started watching it, I was like, don't say a word. Let me experience it for myself.
Dun.
Going back to what you said about Drummer, and we're getting comments like Robbie's saying it's a shame Bobby was put on the back burner a bit. I don't feel that way. I feel like
She had a significant storyline.
I feel like she might have had more in this. I connected with her more in this season than in previous seasons, because I saw that she was like
she's going through a personal struggle with the fact that Mars has become so corrupt as well, and she's really struggling through the fact that it was very interesting, just generally speaking, in the lore of the show, that everyone's abandoning Mars because fuck it, right? Like now there's a ring, we can go to any other planet. Who gives a shit about terraforming a piece of dust? I like that concept, but I actually think that this show is one of the best at integrating characters in later seasons and having you actually care about them. Because oftentimes you take like a show like The Walking Dead, which runs for like 10 seasons. There's a lot of characters that arrived at season 6 or 7 or whatever. You don't care about them. You're at this point now where you have these core characters that you've been following for so long, and these new people, you have a lot of trouble getting attached. So if they were to get killed, or if they start doing extended plot points or backstories about these characters, you don't care enough. The Expanse handles that very well, I find. Like they dive into drama. You talking about her, like her relationships. You care about that. They talk about, like, they spend more time on Bobby. We care about her. I think that this show handles that very well.
And it's funny how all these generations on Mars have American accents, New Zealand accents. But it's the one thing in the show that I can forgive, because obviously they've made the Belters where they're this generational offshoot of human beings that don't have anything to do with Earth so much. They have a certain way of speaking, like an amalgamated accent of many different Earth cultures. Say,
I get that. For Mars, I get like a Texas vibe, like the Caballero.
You hear different American accents within the Mars society, on top of some European accent. So
yeah, it's true.
But I love Bobby's accent, though. I love Bobby's accent.
There's a lot of new
love.
Bobby's accent, her accent.
Taking
no, she doesn't say it like that.
Taking away from the ring aspect of the story, just Mars, I feel like there's still a lot of very recent immigration to Mars, because in the previous seasons you get people saying about like I was born on Mars, and others are like, oh, I arrived here like a few years ago, and it was during this like the soldiers, because some of the soldiers were debating on whether people were not, or whether they were real or not real Martians. So there's discrimination on that level. And so considering there's still so much recent immigration to Mars, of course there would be different accents. They do have a common tongue, I suppose. Like everyone speaks English now.
I want to see a Martian that sounds like Dick Van Dyke and Mary Poppins.
Hello,
governor.
I don't know what the solution
Clean
to
your
this
chimney.
is, but I don't know what the solution to this, but tribalism seems to be like a huge thing in humanity now, and we forgive ourselves a little bit because we're not as enlightened as perhaps future people will be. But when are we going to get enlightened, right? That's the question. And it is interesting in The Expanse to see that like the same prejudices we have today, or the same tribes we have today, don't exist anymore, but there's new tribes, right? Like I'm just saying, like, because there's an episode called Tribes in this season, but that is very well illustrated by The Expanse. Overall, though, I think that's the coolest message of The Expanse. I think some people criticize The Expanse for being like a show that favors centricism, like moderateness. Like, it doesn't take a side, like what you said earlier, PJ. Like, it doesn't. The show itself doesn't like say like Earth is right or Mars is right or the belt is right. Like, there's no like
Star Trek, because Star Trek with a problem on a planet, and it wouldn't necessarily tell you they're doing the wrong thing. Star Trek would be like, this is what's happening on the planet, this is how our characters are going to deal with it, discuss. That's a problem.
That's
like the Oval doesn't do that. The Oval takes sides. The Oval points its finger and says, this planet is shit, we're going to fix it.
The only thing that The Expanse is pointing its finger at now and saying, this is the bad guy, he has to be stopped, is Marco. And this is the kind of first time they're doing this in the show. Yeah. And Marco is a kind of new phenomenon in the show, whereas they really haven't had a definitive
villain.
Like dangerous, truly dangerous villain. And he's almost like a cliche villain in a lot of ways.
Well, the show's brilliant because it does build up to this, like, it shows you like moderate, like other things that are like, you're like at that time, you're like, Anderson Dawes is an extremist. That's what I thought. But compared to Marco Inaros, like, Anderson Dawes is like a diplomat, right? Like, now that you look back at him, and it's like, holy crap. So I think the show does show like I think those critiques about the show being like a show that's saying don't be an extremist are kind of a little too far, because I think in real life we all say don't be an extremist. Like, I think that's like a natural stance for any show to take, right? Because like extremism leads extremism leads to asteroids being flung at your planet with stealth technology and millions and millions and millions of people dying. So cool. And that's
the rain showers of rocks that were like stealth. This thing.
He's a really clever villain. I think that's why I hate him so much, is because what he does is actually like, imagine the math behind like timing these like micro things to hit those Federation UFP, no, they don't call it UFP, what is it, United Nations battleships, like UN battleships, right at the right time for when the fleet arrived. Like, they had to divert. Yeah. He's like a total genius, and I think like
I just don't love him as much as you.
I don't love him. I love to hate him. Yeah, I hate him. Like when Naomi's screaming, I hate you. I wish I could scream right now the way she screams it. Like when they're pulling her away from him after her son slaps her. I feel screaming in his house. I hate you. I hate you. Like, I hate him as much as Anakin hates the Sand People I want to like just completely annihilate Marcos Inaros from
Even the women
from,
and children.
and the pets. He killed all the pets too. He was awful. He was so bad.
What a mean man.
And his Canadian accent came out when he said, "I hate them." And that's it. All right. Anyways,
I need to make a point about this because we discussed this privately, I think, PJ. The Expanse does a very good job at diversity and at representation, and I think it's one of the best shows for that because it does such a good job, but it makes no fuss about it. It just it normalizes the differences that exist in the world. It's just like, here are people. They're all different. They all have different backgrounds, and it's great to see that. And and we were talking about it, how there's basically almost no gender attributed to a specific role or character in a certain sense. Like a lot of the characters, you could give them any gender. You know what I mean? Like, it's just change a name. You don't even need to change names.
Some characters in the show, their gender is literally irrelevant. It like Bobby could be a man or a woman. It doesn't even matter. She's masculine and feminine, and a man could play that part as well. You know what I mean? Or a non-binary person. And it's one of these shows where it doesn't feel like it's trying to be like quote unquote woke or anything like that. It's just the only kind of racism or prejudice that exists in the show is between the factions. Like
tribes.
Belters are together, and race and gender matters not within that tribe. Same thing with Mars, and same thing with Earth. The tribalism is more like the inners, and now Mars and Earth could be against each other now. So I guess
Iñaludas. Yeah,
but yeah, everything feels very natural, and even the way people speak to each other, it's like I think I don't want to bring Father into it because he's not here to defend himself, but he talked about how there doesn't seem to be an overall message of the show, and I'm like, I think I like that. I don't think I want a show to give me I think I like the fact that it presents a world with all of these different points of views and lets the viewer decide. It doesn't tell you what you should think. And like I said, the only kind of finger pointing that they're doing now and saying this is the guy you gotta hate is Marco, and they've done a pretty good job of making the general audience hate that guy. So that's good.
They even gave us a flashback.
I think everyone can clearly state that he's kind of a dick, right? Like, we can all agree.
Yeah, I can't think of one person that I've met or talked to about it that has been like, oh, Marcos is. I understand where he's coming from, and he's right.
Yeah, I like that guy.
I haven't met. Yeah, like I like that guy. Yeah, I haven't met one.
Let's hear him out. You know what I mean?
Let's hear him out.
What does he have to say?
All right, well, I have to bow out because I have to get the door now.
No problem. Well, we're gonna be leaving anyway, so you can leave. We'll say goodbye.
All
right.
Hey, PJ, it was fun hanging out with you.
Thank you so much for watching us, everyone.
It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you for being with us. Live long and prosper, or what do they say in The Expanse? They don't say anything. Bye. All right.
Say goodbye. Yeah.